In 2011, Toyota was coming off the back of a very successful run with the Mark II Yaris, with a very respectable market segment share of over 5% from 2001 to 2011. Moreover, in 2011, the hatchback body style represented a total of 50% of sales for Toyota, despite the rise in SUVs and MPVs at the time. But the company's goal was pretty simple: expand the Yaris's market share in Europe. But the supermini market in Europe at the time was tough. French, Italian, and German options were littered across the streets and would be very difficult to beat on their home ground. Toyota were keen to expand the capabilities of their Yaris through build quality, consolidation of its strengths, as well as bringing in a more sophisticated design, adding new technological elements, and developing the car's powertrain. The Mark III Yaris aimed to be the disruptor in the war for European supermini domination. This video tells the story of exactly how they did it. The Mark III Yaris saw the light of day in 2011, beginning Toyota's quest for European supermini domination. Starting on the outside and working our way in, we can see that the design is classic early 2010s. Toyota really leaned further into strong, horizontal lines, while still keeping a car that's a recognizable successor to the Mark II. A majority of the visual exterior updates came because of Toyota's increased focus on aerodynamics to make the third-gen Yaris as fuel-efficient as possible. In fact, all of these changes made to the bodywork of the new Yaris gave the car a class-leading drag coefficient of 0.287, a number that's still pretty impressive today. The car also set out to improve visibility through the expansion of the front quarter light and removing the bar that divided the rear seat windows. The interior of the Mark III Yaris was a colossal improvement over the previous model. The second generation Yaris had that awful interior you'd be absolutely familiar with, as an identical interior can be seen on the old Prius. The weird dash just made it look like it was trying way too hard to be futuristic. The hard plastic across the dashboard was absolutely awful. Overall, the car just did a horrendous job of masking the fact that it was made extremely cheaply. Symmetry was the name of the game when it came to designing the Mark III interior, even with the hazard light button housing being shaped to match the air vent across from it. They also made the right decision to move the instrument cluster back to being in front of the driver rather than that weird trying to be futuristic but in reality comes off as stupid LED thing in the center of the dash. You could understand wanting to do something different, but conventions exist for a reason, and this design has not aged well. Overall, the Mark III interior has aged really, really well. Sure, it does look dated now, but does it look 14 years old? Definitely not. Now, if you remember, Toyota said they wanted to level up the build quality of the Yaris tenfold, and one of the ways that they chose to do that was with noise reduction. The Mark III Yaris was the first to support a sound-insulating acoustic windscreen, with a layer of film between the sheets of glass. Wind noise was also reduced with redesigned air spats and reshaped door mirrors. To reduce engine noise, the Mark III came with a high-density bonnet insulator, engine undercover silencers, front wing insulation, and, as another first for the Yaris, a cowl insulator, which was placed underneath the windscreen. The Mark III had 3 different engine options, including a 1 or 1.3 litre petrol, an 89 horsepower 1.4 litre diesel. Essentially, these 3 engine options can be categorized into 3 types of drive. The 1 litre petrol champions lightweight and nimble driving, providing excellent fuel economy and made the car very suitable for city driving. The 1.3 litre provided much more flexibility and power, making the Mark III Yaris much more capable on motorways. The 1.4 litre provided high torque, allowing it to comfortably tackle hills or overtaking. Being a diesel, it had also have found itself with great mileage, particularly when sticking it in 6th gear and just cruising down the motorway. With these engine options, Toyota managed to appeal to those with low budgets, city drivers, countryside drivers, regular motorway drivers. They managed to make the Mk3 Yaris as accessible as possible. There were many technical developments that pushed the Yaris forward with this model. The McPherson front struts and rear torsion beams were revised to provide greater rigidity and structural integrity, but also ensure improved ride comfort. The electric power steering system was improved to provide better steering feel and faster steering response. Brake servo assistance was increased for more powerful braking and pedal feel. If you didn't know, like me, before researching this video, a brake servo is a component that amplifies the input force applied to the brake to allow for easier braking. To increase the rigidity of the body, shave weight, and contribute to better handling, high tensile steel made up about 50% of the body shell. The pricing of the car, which can be seen here, is a great visual demonstration of just how accessible the Mk3 Yaris was made. It didn't matter if you were a first-time buyer or someone after some budget luxury. If you were after a city runaround, or if you lived in the middle of the North Pennines and had to make a trip pilgrimage to Sunderland every time you wanted to go to a big Tesco, there was a Yaris that could get you there. Thanks to Toyota's investments into the longevity of the Mk3 Yaris, the car managed to stay in production until 2020. Bear in mind that the Mark I was in production for 6 years, and the Mark II for only 5. The Mark III was being made for 9 years. Now, obviously, they didn't release the 2011 model and call it a day for 9 years. The Mark III Yaris saw a bunch of variants and had a huge facelift a few years into its lifespan, featuring a design that I honestly wouldn't complain about seeing in a car being released today. So what do the updated models look like? After all, for a majority of the Mark III's lifespan, it was actually being sold as a facelifted version, not the original 2011 variants. Well, the first upgrade came in 2012, and it was a giant leap for the motoring industry, as Toyota pushed out Europe's first fully hybrid Supermini. It had a 1.5-litre petrol engine based off of that in their second generation Prius, and was coupled with a battery located beneath the rear seats to preserve boot space. Total output was 98 brake horsepower or 71 kilowatts, and had an official urban fuel consumption of 80.7 miles per gallon. With their focus on reducing emissions and increasing fuel economy, around 70% of the car's engine components were either redesigned or replaced completely. Toyota managed to use what they had learned in the Yaris and Prius hybrids to reduce the weight of the electric motor by 42 kilograms. Thermal efficiency was increased by 6% over the second generation Prius. The Yaris hybrid also adopted new technologies such as exhaust gas recirculation, which recirculates a portion of the car's exhaust gases back into the engine intake, and an electric water pump, which helped with cooling. There are a bunch of other small innovations, but those were the main ones. Also, this video would just be way too long if I covered them all, so I'm going to move on. By 2014, production of the hybrid Yaris reached 100,000 units, with the car accounting for 31% of total Yaris sales across Europe. It became the best-selling alternative powertrain in the Supermini segment, and the second best-selling model in the entire alternative powertrain market in the region. This blew Toyota's expectations of the Yaris hybrid out the park and out the water. And they had to strike while the iron was hot. Next to come after the hybrids was 2014's facelift model. In fact, this was less of a facelift and more of a revision, as it's not like the 2014 Yaris was just the previous one, but with some Botox to hold it over until the new model came out. Toyota literally took what they had and revised the entire thing. The 2014 model had a more dynamic and emotive design, with different model grades to customize your Yaris to your desire. In the UK, these were called the Active, Icon, Sport and XL. The interior got slimmer instrument panels, stronger horizontal lines, as well as more soft-touch materials. There were redesigned door panels and added closed storage. There was a greater variety of color schemes for the seat fabrics and interior trims. Electric power steering was recalibrated for better feel and accuracy. The wheelhouse and rear bumper were both redesigned to reduce body roll deformation. The rear suspension was made to accommodate a stiffer torsion beam, new long polyurethane bump stops, and softer coil springs to improve comfort while retaining adequate body control. This also enhanced the Yaris's balance of front and rear grip, reducing understeer tendencies. To increase handling and reduce body roll when cornering, the Mark III's revised front end also saw softer springs, as well as the introduction of rebound springs within the shock absorbers to increase anti-roll stiffness. To reduce noise, vibrationless, and just general harshness of driving, the dash silencer was upgraded, and they're also being improved door mirror sealing and reworking the bonnet shape to reduce wing noise at high speeds. As far as powertrains were concerned, the revised Mark III had 4 options, which can be seen here. Similarly to the launch Mark III, Toyota decided to stick with the plan of having 3 different engines for different purposes, but this time with the added option of a hybrid for those after real fuel efficiency. One thing Toyota were very proud of with these tuned engines for the revised Mark III was their variable valve timing engines, which could now switch from Otto to Atkinson cycles. The difference being the timing of the valve that puts fuel-air mixture into the compression chamber. At this point, you're probably wondering why in the hell Toyota put so much effort into a car that wasn't even a replacement for their current model. This was still the Mark III. Well, Toyota was showing that they were pulling no punches in their quest for European supermini domination. When they brought this 2014 revised Yaris to the market, Jose Manuel Mendez, senior manager at Toyota's Europe marketing management team, said that with more than 3 million Yaris on the road in Europe, we have a very solid consumer base to build on. All the more because we know that Yaris consumers tend to be very satisfied with their car and very loyal. But we also know that if we want to grow, we need to draw in customers from other brands. So all of this was ultimately done in the quest of showing European customers that their brands are no longer top dog. And it was time for even the most loyal of customers to move from their beloved Clios and Polos, Corsas and Fabias to join the Toyota bandwagon. 2016 was a big year for the Yaris, as Toyota manufacturing France's Valenciennes factory, which had been producing the Yaris since 2001, surpassed 3 million units, with cars being supplied throughout Europe and shipped across the world. From 2016 to 2017, the third generation Yaris had risen to a 6.5% market share, with 208,000 sales in the B segment market across Western Europe. On top of this, the petrol-electric powertrain had proven its value in the long term, with it accounting for more than 40% of all Yaris European sales. And it was 2017 to 20 that the final production version of the Yaris hit the shelves, before the Mark IV came out. Toyota decided to round off the car with a more dynamic design, a modernized interior, enhanced safety to meet the latest standards, as well as better dynamics. Basically, they just wanted to modernize what they had to make sure this 6-year-old car could keep up with the new kids on the block. It was also created with the market's increasingly selective customer base in mind, giving the car a blend of value for money and contemporary style and elegance. The grade structure had changed slightly from V2 to V3 of the Mark III, with there being models called the Active, Icon, Icon Tech, Design, Bitone, and Excel. Mark III V2 had a 1-litre VVTi petrol, a 1.5-litre dual VVTi petrol, or a 1.5-litre VVTi hybrid. available with that 1.5 litre petrol ICE being brand new to the Yaris. This new 1.5 litre engine was developed in anticipation of future Euro 6C emission standards and RDE homologation requirements. It allowed for Otto Atkinson switching, had a water-cooled exhaust manifold, and had 12% better fuel economy than the 1.33 litre it was replacing. It also championed thermal efficiency by having a significantly higher compression ratio of 13.5 to 1. The 1 litre petrol remained unchanged from the first Mark III version, with the 1.5 litre hybrid now being quieter under acceleration and having various changes such as a roll restrictor to improve the ride. This version of the Mark III, like the Mark II, was the responsibility of Toyota Motor Europe, who had been responsible for managing the Yaris's product lifecycle since 2011. And my god, did they do a fantastic job. It couldn't be more different to, say, the Fiat 126, the car that my previous video was about, which was in production for almost 30 years, but barely changed throughout that time. Meanwhile, Toyota Motor Europe got their hands on the Mark III Yaris and kept the car ahead of the game right up until the release of the Mark IV. Now, the last Mark III Yaris to be released before the shop was closed to make way for the Mark IV was the Toyota Yaris GRMN. It came out in 2018 and was basically a road-going homologation of the Yaris WRC car, as the company made their return to the Premier Rally World in 2017. It was limited to 400 production units for Europe and sold out within weeks of the car's introduction. The car was co-developed by both Toyota's Europe and Japan teams, but one notable collaboration happened with Lotus. Toyota had been supplying their 2ZR engine to Lotus for the Elise for quite some time, and Toyota's European technical project manager, Stijn Peters, realized just how good of a fit the 2ZR would be for the small engine bay of the Yaris. In regards to working with Lotus, Peters said that there was an immediate advantage as Lotus uses a large number of Toyota products in its vehicles, so has built up a lot of knowledge about their performance potential. They gave us a lot of information about their quality results and customer behavior, and we learned a great deal from them about low volume, high performance vehicle manufacturing. Toyota's vehicles are typically developed to suit a wide range of customers, so it was very valuable to learn more about the specific requirements of people who drive performance sports cars. We were also given a great insight into working with a supercharged engine and managing low volume production. That 2ZR was a 1.8 litre, 4-cylinder, dual variable valve timing, supercharged petrol that produced 209 brake horsepower at 6,800 RPM. The car's core structure was, as you can expect, changed drastically. Toyota gave the GRMN a reinforced chassis with extra bracing, Sachs performance shock absorbers, stiffer springs, a 24mm lower ride, a limited slip differential made by Torsen, very rare in B-segment hatches, 17-inch alloys made by BBS with Bridgestone Potenza tires and larger brakes, with 4-piston calipers made by Advix. As you can see, the styling was also changed to make sure that the GRMN was more than just a second-gen Mark III with a sleeper build. The GRMN had a rear spoiler, new diffuser, bespoke bumpers, and Gazoo racing decals. Moving inside, Toyota's Europe development team gave the GRMN Toyota Boshoku seats, a black cabin with leather trim, a GR86 derived steering wheel and aluminium pedals and trim, a unique TFT display with, of course, a GR animation that shows up when you fire the car into life. The GRMN also made way for the brilliant GR Yaris, one of, if not the best, hot hatches ever. The third generation Yaris started a trend of quality in the supermini space. It forced manufacturers to step up and improve the quality of their small cars. Many of the reasons why I love my Micra and the tech inside it is because of the bar that was raised with the Mark III Yaris on their quest to dominate Europe's market. Superminis were becoming much more than metal shells on wheels. Moreover, it proved that a small exterior doesn't have to mean a cramped interior, with many superminis nowadays feeling incredibly spacious for their size. And all that began because Toyota wanted to start making their small cars as appealing as possible to people looking to downsize from saloons and SUVs and MPVs. Not only that, but Toyota's desire to take the spotlight away from European manufacturers accelerated enhancements for the B segment design. The facelifted Mark III Yaris looked awesome and still looks like a brand new design, more or less. The Mark III Yaris redefined the meaning of cheap and cheerful entirely, making the supermini space as attractive an option as ever. Then and now, the Yaris has been a heavyweight in the lightweight car class, and as long as it's on sale, will remain as one of the best superminis on the market. But one of the best accomplishments of the third generation Yaris was the fact that it was the stepping stone to the Mark IV, a future classic that is right up there on my dream cars list. Well, maybe not a dream car, but a car I'd love to own one day. And that isn't just my opinion. In March of 2023, the Yaris reached a landmark of 10 million global sales. The growing and continuing success of the Yaris has everything to do with the step up in quality that the Mark III brought, that the Mark IV has expertly learned from and built upon. But that is a video for another time. If you want me to cover it, let me know. So that is the third generation Toyota Yaris, its story, its impact, and what it did to drive our industry forward. So now, when you see one on the road, you can go, "Oh my god, is that a Mark III Yaris?" and have all your friends look at you confused as to why you're getting so excited about a random hatchback. Anyway, that's the video. Goodbye.